Professor Black Ops. You see it. Let's get it. Hacker scans security vulnerabilities in 15 minutes. So usually when you see those CVEs hit MITRE or any of the other sites, hackers start scanning those, and with 15 minutes of those hitting that. So when MITRE accidentally released some vulnerabilities last month, that's why that was a huge deal, because as soon as those hit the web, hackers are already on it because they know probably half the people are not going to be able to patch on time. Old systems, you need to test. So a lot of companies are at least 30 days behind on patches sometimes. But once again, hopefully the vendor, when they find vulnerabilities, they don't release them for 2 or 3 months to give their user base enough time. So that's why if you need extended time to patch, you need to make sure you have other things in place to stop the hackers from scanning or stop the hackers from getting in. So once again, super quick article. Let's read it. Hacker scan vulnerability within 15 minutes of disclosure. System administrators have less time to patch disclosed security vulnerabilities than previously thought. A new report shows threat actors scanning vulnerability endpoints within 15 minutes of a new CVE being publicly disclosed. According to Palo Alto 2022 Unit 42, is the response report. Hackers are constantly monitoring software vendors' bulletin boards for vulnerability announcements that can leverage for initial access to corporate networks or to perform remote code execution, right? So that's why when you're doing open source or any software, we need you to be subscribed to the vulnerabilities from the vendor. So when you get them, you you need to start hacking. I mean, you need to start patching to block the hackers because they're actually subscribed to the bulletin boards, and that's one reason we want you to have paid support. So when you get paid support, you get the patches first before anybody ever knows about those vulnerabilities, right? So, however, the speed at which threat actors begin scanning vulnerabilities puts system administrators in the crosshairs as they race to patch bugs before they're exploited. In 2022, Attack Surface Management Threat Report found attackers typically start scanning vulnerabilities within 15 minutes of the CVEs being announced, reads a companion blog post. Since scanning isn't particularly demanding, even low-skill attackers can scan the internet for vulnerability endpoints, selling findings on the dark web market where more capable hackers now can exploit them. Then within hours, the first active exploitation attempts are observed, often hitting systems that never had a chance to patch. Unit 42 presented CVE 2022 1388 as an example, a critical unauthenticated remote command execution vulnerability impacting the F5 Big IP, which is a load balancer, and most governments and big companies use Big IP. So they saying within 15 minutes of that vulnerability being posted on the bulletin board, they start scanning for it. The flaw was discovered on May 4th, 2022, and according to Unit 14, by the time 10 hours had passed since the announcement of CVE, they had recorded 2,552 scanning and exploitation attempts. This is a race between defenders and malicious actors. The margins for delay on either side are dwindling with every year that passes, right? So there's automated patching, automated attacks, right? Red team versus good team, good versus bad. So number one, you need to be patching. Vulnerability scans need to be high on your list of things you do from a security program standpoint. Most exploited flaws in 2022, based on data collected by Palo Alto, the most exploited vulnerability for network access in H1 2022 was the proxy shell exploited chain, accounting for 55% of the total recorded exploitation. Proxy shell attack exploited by chaining together three vulnerability attacks. CV 2021 34473, 3423, 31207, right? So those hours in 2021, once again, they chain them together. So that's the interesting part is you might have something that's less vulnerable and less risky, but they use that to get in your network or get a hold of your network. Then they use the other two things to really exploit you, right? So now you gotta take the risk of each exploitation, right, together as a totality when you're doing a risk assessment. Log4j has second place with 14% of the various Sonic Wall CVEs for 7%. Proxy Log had 5%. And Zoha Managed AD Self Service Plus had 3%. Right? So that's the cool thing is that's the little graph right there. So the cool thing about that is you actually have data on it, right? So you don't have to guess. You can start from the most dangerous and just work your way down and make sure you lock down your system. As it becomes evident that most of these stats, the line shares on exploitation volumes, are captured by semi-old flaws and not the most recent ones. This happens for various reasons, including attack surface size, exploitation complexity, and practical impact. More valuable and better protected systems whose admin are quick to a patch. Security updates are targeted with 0 days, or the attacks are unfolded immediately after disclosure of the files. It's also worth noting that according to Unit 42, exploiting software vulnerabilities for initial network breaches accounts for roughly one-third of the methods used. In 37% of the cases, phishing was preferable means for achieving the initial access. Brute force or using compromised credentials or how hackers penetrate a network in 15% of the cases. So your initial vector, software vulnerabilities, brute force, insider threat, social engineering was 5. Like phishing's 37. So be careful with those emails. Finally, using social engineering tricks against exploited employees or bribing a rogue insider to aid in network correspondence to just 10% of the incidents. Once again, it's a race against the clock, while the system administrator, network admins, and security professionals already under the significant stress as they try to keep up with the latest security threats and OS issues. The speed at which threat actors target their devices only add additional pressure. Therefore, it's extremely important to keep devices off the internet if possible, only exposed through VPNs or other security gates. By restricting access to servers, admin only reduces the risk of exploits, but provide additional time to apply security patches before vulnerabilities are targeted by internally. Unfortunately, some services must be publicly exposed, requiring admin to tighten security as much as possible through access lists, exposing only the necessary ports and services, and applying updates as quickly as possible. While quickly applying critical updates may lead to downtime, this is much better than the ramifications of a full-blown cyber attack. So, once again, hackers are scanning your security holes within 15 minutes. Don't be upset when people need to shut down a system and patch. It's only getting quicker, like you said, the cadence of what you need to patch and your vulnerability scan and just having a full cybersecurity risk program. Professor Black Ops, please subscribe. Have a great day.